you were right, and still nothing changed. You laid it out clearly. Every piece of evidence, every logical step, the full picture in the right order, and they looked at you and said no. Not because they had a better argument, because they didn't need one. Here is the part that nobody talks about. The pain is not losing the argument. The pain is realizing, again, that being right does not protect you from anything, not from being dismissed, not from being talked over, not from watching someone louder than you walk away looking like they won. You have spent years believing that if you explain something well enough, people will come around. You were lied to, not maliciously, just confidently, by people who also believed it. And tonight, sitting with that familiar feeling, the one that is not quite anger, not quite sadness, you are starting to wonder if that belief was ever actually true. It was not, and the sooner that lands, the sooner everything changes. Picture this exactly. Someone speaks in the meeting with total confidence about something they clearly do not understand. You know the real answer, you give it carefully. The evidence, the context, the reason behind the reason. They do not pause. They do not think. They repeat themselves, louder, and the room believes them. You go home. You replay it for an hour. You construct the perfect response, every word exactly right. For an audience that already moved on 30 minutes ago, that feeling is not anger. Anger wants to fight. This is grief. Grief that the world you thought you were living in, the one where logic matters, where being right counts for something, is not the world that actually exists. And here is the part that stings most. You are not losing because you are wrong. You are losing because you keep assuming the other person wants what you want. That at some level, they are also looking for the truth. That if you just explain it better, the right words, the right tone, the right moment, something will click. They are not looking for the truth. They never were. That belief, that one, is the open wound. You have been bleeding from it for years. And every time you explain yourself to someone who has already decided, you tear it open again. In 1820, Arthur Schopenhauer made a decision that looked like professional suicide. He was not famous yet. He was difficult, isolated, and completely convinced he was right about almost everything. He also happened to be right about almost everything. He scheduled his lectures at the University of Berlin at the exact same hour as Georg Hegel, the most celebrated philosopher in Germany, the man every institution backed. The man who filled lecture halls just by showing up. Schopenhauer did not move his time. Hegel's hall was full. Schopenhauer's had 5 students. Most people in that position would have adjusted, lowered the price of entry, made the ideas easier to swallow, found a compromise. He taught the same material to 5 people, without changing a single word. Hegel died 11 years later. His fame faded with the century. Schopenhauer outlived the reputation of every man who laughed at him. Today Hegel is studied by people who have to study him. Schopenhauer is read by people who have never taken a single philosophy class, because something in the work hits them like he wrote it this morning. He was not waiting for the room to understand him. He had already accepted, clearly without bitterness, that some rooms never would. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits our target no one else can see. That was Schopenhauer describing himself, and the reason it does not sound arrogant is because he proved it. Now think about your version of that lecture hall, not Berlin, not 1820, the group chat where you stop explaining after a while, the family dinner where you go quiet by the second course, the meeting where you have the better idea and choose not to fight for it against someone who will never stop talking. You have been treating those moments as defeats. They were not. They were the first sign that you already understood something. Schopenhauer spent his whole life trying to explain. Here is what nobody explains about confident, wrong people. They are not confused. They are not waiting for more information. They are not one good argument away from changing. Their confidence is not a starting point. It is the conclusion. Everything after, the pushback, the raised voice, the doubling down, that is not a person searching. That is a person protecting. Because if they admit you are right, even once, even slightly, they have to rebuild something inside themselves, and that cost is one they will not pay. You send the email with the document attached. They reply in 2 minutes. You know they did not open it. Their reply makes no sense with the document open, but they sound more certain than you do. And that certainty, not the argument, is what the room responds to. Here is what that means. They are not losing the debate. They are playing a different game. A game about who looks certain, who seems like they belong at the front, who performs confidence well enough that logic becomes irrelevant. And they are winning that game while you are still explaining the spreadsheet. You are not bad at arguing. You are bringing a chess piece to a boxing match. There is a man, you know this man, who never backs down from anything. Every meeting he talks. Every group chat he corrects. Every family gathering he explains. He has a reputation for being the person who always has an answer. He also has not grown in 4 years, because the person who must win every argument cannot afford to be wrong. And the person who cannot afford to be wrong cannot afford to learn. Every time you chose not to fight, you stayed open, he stayed stuck. You gave them the argument. You kept the truth. That is not a loss. That is a trade. And you got the better end of it every single time. Some people are not confused. They are not misinformed. They are not waiting to be educated. They know, on some level, what they are doing. Loudness is strategy. Confidence is armor. Refusing to engage with evidence is not a failure of intelligence. It is protection. The harder you push, the harder they push back. Not because they believe more, because now their identity is inside the argument. You have made this a fight they cannot lose without losing themselves. Stop. Think about a specific person, not generally the exact face. You have had the same conversation with them 3 or 4 times. Each time you came with more. Each time they became more convinced they were right. You thought the problem was the evidence. The evidence was never the problem. Some people do not argue to find the truth. They argue to survive it, and understanding that does not mean you surrender. It means you stop attacking a wall and start walking around it. Schopenhauer did not write a self-help guide. But watch how he actually lived, and 3 things appear everywhere. The first is this. He stopped explaining to people who had already decided. Not dramatically. No announcement. No final speech. He just stopped, mid-conversation. If he felt the other person was not processing, only performing, he would redirect. Talk about something else, or say nothing at all, not from defeat, from accounting. He had learned that explanation is a currency, and he refused to spend it where it earned nothing back. The second, when someone said something so far from reason that argument could not reach it, he agreed, completely. Enthusiastically, he would take their logic one step further than they had taken it themselves. Follow it, calmly, to where it was always heading. Most of the time, they backpedaled, because they were never committed to the logic. They were committed to winning. And suddenly winning looked different than they had planned. The third. And this is the one that changed everything. He became genuinely indifferent to whether they understood, not cold, not arrogant. Indifferent. The way you are indifferent to the weather. You notice it. You prepare for it. You do not argue with it. There is a man in a corridor talking loudly about something he is wrong about. Schopenhauer walks past, does not slow down, does not look back. The man keeps talking. To a corridor. That image, that walk, is the whole lesson. Silence is not the absence of a response. It is a complete one. The reason this has hurt you is not that you are weak. It is that you actually care what is true. Most people do not care. They care about appearing right, about the room's reaction, about not looking stupid. Those are completely different things. You have been in pain because you are one of the few people who genuinely wants to understand the world correctly. And you have spent years surrounded by people who do not share that value and have been quietly blaming yourself for the distance. Stop that. You sat in that meeting. You had the better idea. You saw the room was not ready for it. You let it go. You thought that was weakness. It was the first intelligent move you made all day. Every time you walked away instead of escalating, that was not losing. That was your instincts arriving 1 second before the impulse to fight. Every time you felt the drain and chose not to go back for more, your mind was protecting something in you worth protecting. You were not playing the wrong game. You were the only person in the room playing the right one. On a board nobody else could see. Not everyone deserves the version of you that explains things. If something in this video finally named something you have been carrying, type this in the comments. I stopped explaining, not as a performance. Type it if you mean it. You will know if you do. Subscribe, not for this channel. Because you started working something out tonight, next video, the version of you that stopped needing them to agree, that one goes further than this.